In this episode, let's focus on farms, and we'll start with the underground farms. That's the most important one to get going, and certainly by the end of summer I want to have got my underground farms working. Let's allow the dwarfs to start digging out some of this area to start with. I've made a cardinal sin here because this very corner, if we have a look upwards, is only one layer deep. However, the reason why I'm doing it at this layer is if we click on here, you can see we've got sandy clay loam, and that's a type of soil, as is sand. So anything that has sand, clay, loam, soil in its title, any mixture of those, we can grow crops on. If we have a look at this staircase here, we can see that it's yellow sand. If we go down one, it's chert. That means that we have some soil, but the soil is stopping on this level, so we've had to come a level up. We could place a farm on stone if we got some water there to make it muddy. Crops grow happily on muddy stone. However, it is a bit of an endeavour to set up. So I'm going to treat this corner as though it's dead to us. We might deal with it later, but for now, we're just going to work over in this corner. So designate and dig. I've got box select on and it's on standard, that's good. So let's mine out a doorway. A 2 wide doorway is easier for them to pass through rather than a 1 wide doorway. And let's see, we want the room to chop this corner off like that. I'm going to want a gap against that wall and a gap against that wall. Don't need it, it's just for aesthetic purposes. So how big do I want my farms to be? Well, this is purely personal preference, but I like my farms to be 5 by 3. So we'll start here, we'll go 3 across, and then we'll go 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would like 3 of them. And then we'll have another gap against that wall. I want a gap against the back of the farm. And then we're going to need some space for some workshops, but at the very least we're going to want 1 still and 1 kitchen. So the stills and kitchens, those workshops are 3 by 3, so we're going to want to make a space that's at least 3 by 3 for them, and then a gap against the wall so that they can walk behind the workshop easy. And that will be our first little farming area. We'll make it a little bit fancier later. And for the mining dwarfs to get here, we're going to need to tell them that they can mine out this area that we've previously only marked out. So we'll do capital M to toggle standard and marking. And we'll tell them that they can... We'll toggle all of that area, tell them that they can mine that. We'll also do this area here as well. I'm always very careful about the stairs because it's a pain if I've accidentally told them to dig out the stairs. So if I'm giving mining instructions or I'm toggling markings, I tend to avoid going across the stairs. The stairs are just a little bit fragile. It seems to be when you want to remove them, you have to remove them in a very specific way. When you didn't want to remove them, they seem to do it very easily. Okay, let's get this area mined out. Okay, the miners are finished, so let's build some farm plots. So it's B for build and P for plot. This is the equivalent of them tilling the soil. Right, we need to do this with the cursor. And it's U, and KK. And we'll move it 1 up to there. Yes, that's where I want it. And then we want a second one. And it's U to expand it vertically and K to expand it horizontally. And if you go too far, it's M to shrink it and H to shrink it horizontally. And then we're going to want a still and a kitchen. So it is, from the main menu, it's B for build, W for workshop, L for still. We'll put that where we want it, which is about there. We'll make that out of chert. Then it's Z for kitchen. Let's move that along. We can't put workshops on top of each other, so that's the closest we could do, but I like to leave a little gap between the workshops. So we'll put that there and make it out of chert. Enter to place and enter to select the material. Okay, now no one is actually going to do anything about that unless we assign them. So go back to Dwarf Therapist. Spotted Cow, you can be our farmer. And let's change things around a little bit. Bernie, I'm going to stop you from being the carpenter. I'm going to make you into our brewer and cook for the moment. Not that we're going to be doing a lot of cooking for the moment, so you'll be focused on brewing. I'll need someone else to take over carpentry though. Maybe Jim. We'll take Jim off mining, we'll put him on carpentry. Do I need to take Spotted Cow off plant gathering? Let's see if Spotted Cow prioritises farm plot building over plant gathering. Okay, we can also tell our miners that they can get back to hauling because I'm not going to do any mining just for a moment. So we want to see what everybody's up to. We can press J. That takes us to the job screen. So Spotted Cow is gathering plants. Adam and Alfie are everybody's hauling wood at the moment. Bernie is in the middle of a job making a wooden step ladder. We'll give them a moment to finish the jobs that they were doing. Now let's take a look at what might go wrong. If nobody builds a farm plot, either there isn't a dwarf with farming enabled, or the farmer dwarf is too busy with higher priority tasks like plant gathering, or the farmer dwarf can't access the plot. For access problems, check that your farmer isn't restricted to a burrow that doesn't include the plot, or you could try drafting the farmer into a military squad and see if they can be moved to the plot with a station order. The job screen, which is J, will tell you if they can't reach it. So now that Bernie has finished making the step ladder, he will go downstairs. We should see him pass through the stair. There he goes. Bernie will go and pick up a lump of chert from below. Here he is with this lump of chert, and he'll go and build either the still or the kitchen. Now, Spotted Cow, are you still gathering plants? You are, so I think we'll stop you from doing that for the moment. Let's get you focused on farming. We'll get the farms up and running. So Bernie's built the kitchen and now he's going off to get some more chert so that he can build the still. And here comes Spotted Cow to build the farms. To remove a farm plot, whether it's in planning or it's been built, click on the plot and it's X to remove. Okay, now the farm plots, at least some of the farm plots have been built. Spotted Cow is busy working on this one over here. Let's have a look at the ones he's done. What do we want to grow? Now it's spring, so there's only 4 crops that we can grow underground in spring, and we only have plump helmets. So we have plump helmets spawn. Now down here you'll see A, B, C and D for spring, summer, autumn and winter. So if we move between those, you'll see the different plants available according to the seasons. So in summer we've got pigtails and plump helmets, and we've got a few others as well. Autumn, so switching between, sweet pods grow in summer but they don't grow in autumn. And then in winter only plump helmets and dimple cups grow in in winter. Now we only brought seeds for plump helmets and pigtails. If we want to grow something all year round, then you can press Shift Enter and that will set plump helmets all year round. So if we now look at, because we're currently saying grow this in winter, if we go to spring by pressing A, you can see that plump helmets is highlighted. So let's go to the next farm plot. Now this farm plot I want to alternate. I'm going to say plump helmets in spring, but then B for summer, pigtails. C for autumn, pigtails. D for winter, plump helmets. Let's let Spotted Cow finish that last farm. I think he's done there. Oh, nearly. There we go. Okay, so in spring we'll have plump helmets. In summer we'll have pigtails. In autumn we'll have pigtails. And then in winter we'll have plump helmets. We probably don't have enough plump helmet spawn to plant up all of those farm plots, but Spotted Cow will go and get the seeds and plant what he can. There you can see Spotted Cow was bringing down a seed. Oh, did you notice Spotted Cow just went to the still to get a seeds? So the plump helmets that we've been brewing into plump helmet wine, we've been getting plump helmet spawn from those plump helmets, so Spotted Cow now only has to go to the still to get the plump helmets. Now in the farms downstairs, ideally we would like to have some cats down there to keep the vermin down, because farms and food stockpiles attract vermin. That's what all of these bones are that you see here. That's rotten rat remains. And that's rat remains. More rat remains. So the cats have been keeping the vermin down. So we need cats up here because this is where we're storing our food at the moment. But we also need cats down here because we're going to have vermin collecting around here. So as soon as the cats breed, we'll bring the kittens down here.
Summer is here.
So now that it's turned into summer, Spotted Cow can start planting pigtails. Right, before we finish with food and farming, let's just have a look at some of the other options that we didn't cover as part of the standard getting things set up. So, farm plots. Down here we have the option to leave a plot fallow. And we can leave it fallow for all seasons. If we find that we're just getting too much food, then we can stop them from planting. That'll happen eventually. Fertilise is not something we need to worry about. We don't need to fertilise. If you had a very tiny area that you could plant, if you were in a biome where you could barely grow anything and there was a tiny little area, then you might consider fertilising at that point. I've had the dwarves dig out this room here, it's a fairly large room, so that we can put down a fairly large food stockpile. Food stockpiles are a little bit fiddly. So let's show you what I'm going to do. So P for stockpile, F for food. I'm going to designate this whole bottom area here for a certain type of food. So we'll click on it again and press settings. This food, I'm going to say no seeds. So we're going to F for forbid seeds. And we're going to say we want maximum barrels. It looks like it's defaulted to that, but it's capital R for maximum barrels. Now the reason why I've said no seeds is because seeds are stored in bags. And if you store a bag of seeds inside a barrel, and we do allow barrels in this stockpile, when the dwarfs go looking for seeds, they'll look at a barrel and they'll see a barrel with bags in it. They won't see a barrel with bags with seeds. They only look inside one container. They don't look inside two. So no seeds in there. We're going to set up a separate stockpile for seeds. If the farmer builds the farms but doesn't plant, then either you don't have the seeds, the farmer can't access the seeds, or the seeds are inside a bag which is inside a barrel, so the dwarves only see the bag inside the barrel, not the seeds inside the bag. So we'll put a different stockpile. We'll keep it near the farms. Let's say maybe out here. Sure, it'll do for the moment. We'll make a proper seed stockpile. And now I've chosen animal because animal has no barrels or bins as default. And then we'll escape and select it again, and we'll change the settings. We'll disable animals. Then we'll go to food. We'll enable food, but then we'll block all. Arrow keys down to seeds, and we'll permit seeds. P for permit. Okay, so seeds can be stored there, but we have a maximum barrel count of 0. We could, if there was barrels allocated there, then we could do a capital E to turn that to minimum barrels. So it would be capital R for maximum, capital E for minimum. Now we want all of that stuff brought down, all of the food that we have up here, we want brought down. So let's change the settings on this stockpile. And we'll say food. Let's not have food up here anymore. We'll disable food. Now we need them to move the food pretty quickly because the food will go off. If you have food that is not stored in a food stockpile, for example, if we had plump helmets that were ready to harvest down here, they'd be harvested and just left on the floor. Or if our cook had made some roasts, they'd just leave them in the kitchen and they wouldn't be moved anywhere. So it's always important to make sure that you have free spaces in a food stockpile and plenty of barrels to keep the food in. That way you can be sure that the food doesn't wither, and certainly food like roasts, they will create miasma if they are left to rot. And miasma gives the dwarves really unhappy thoughts. If crops are left to wither in the field, it's usually because there isn't a place to store the crops, so make sure that you have enough space in a food stockpile and enough barrels to store the food in. As always, it may also be that your farmer is too busy with other tasks or can't access the farm because it's outside of a restricted burrow, or maybe your farmer is locked out of the fortress or stuck up a tree or something. But yes, the majority of the dwarves are currently focused on getting all of the food moved out of the food stockpile and moved downstairs because food rots so quickly. We need to get it shifted. So that's all of the basics that I find important for underground farms. We'll cover the other sources of food and overground farms in a later episode. There's a huge amount of additional information which is interesting, but I don't find it essential to getting farming set up. I might cover it in a later episode on advanced farming, things like fertilizing and stuff. Let me know in the comments if there is something about farms that you find an important fact to know that I haven't covered here, and I'll make sure that I include it in a future episode. Thanks for watching.